Today is Friday, May 27, 2022. I'm Pastor Michael, and this is Wilderness Wanderings. Our text is from Psalm 18. I love you, O Lord, my strength. Verse 1. This opening phrase of Psalm 18 may suggest to us that this will be a nice, gentle psalm. It is anything but. It is filled with bold colors, powerful metaphors, haunting images, and violent movements. John Calvin wrote that the creation is the theater of God's glory. It may have been this psalm which inspired that phrase. David, having spent his life shepherding sheep, hiding in caves, and defeating enemy armies, knows a thing or two about this creation. That intimate knowledge fashions his prayer. Let's take a brief look. In the first movement, God is rock, fortress, deliverer, refuge, stronghold. But wait a moment. These images of mountain strongholds are all preceded with a pronoun. The psalmist says, the Lord is my rock, my fortress. I suspect that we ought to follow David's example more often. Find the strongest elements of God's creation to describe what God is to you. In the second movement, David uses creation metaphors to describe how he almost dies. Cords of death, torrents of destruction, cords of the grave. Have you ever dared to use such images to describe the state of affairs in your life? The third movement of this psalm imagines the creation coming apart before God's approach. Trembles, shakes, quakes, smokes, parts. Here God does not come in light, but in the darkness of judgment. It's an edge-of-your-seat horror show. Then suddenly the imagery shifts. This horrifying God reaches down, shepherd-like, and picks up his trembling lamb from the cliff of disaster. As enemies surround him, cutting off his life, God pauses, picks him out of the fray, and sets him in a safe place. Why? This is who God is. He has an eye for those who seek him. When the psalmist declares his own righteousness, he is not suggesting that he is perfect, having never sinned. No, it's another way of saying, as a deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants for you, O God. Psalm 42:1. God comes to those who seek him. Now God becomes the teacher. God is the master, and the psalmist the apprentice. Notice all that God does for and teaches this psalmist. All this training is so that he can go out and deal with his enemies. David is not rescued in order to be spared the struggle. Rather, God uses David to deal with those who oppose him. Remember, God's enemies are David's enemies. David is amazed at how thoroughly God has carried him through the storm, and how thoroughly God has raised him over his enemies. Thus, he praises God. We too can pray this prayer. Read Ephesians 2:6-7, and pray Psalm 42 in light of these verses. As you journey on, go with the blessing of God. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you, wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you. May he bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors.